Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Council meeting of the 27th of October. Before we commence the meeting, I request that all mobile phones are turned off or switched to silent. Thank you. We'll now commence by reading the Acknowledgement of Country. I call upon Councillor Victor Franco to read the Acknowledgement of Country.
Thank you, Mayor. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners and original custodians of this land and pay my respects to their elders past and present and the elders from other communities who may be with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franco. My name is Councillor Sophie Tawney and I'm the Mayor of Boroondara City Council. I'll start by introducing my fellow councillors. Seated to my left at the Horseshoe table in Council Chamber are Councillor Lisa Hollingsworth, Councillor Wes Galt, Councillor Michael Nolan, Councillor Felicity Simfield, Councillor Victor Franco on my right, who's our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Rob Baillieu, Councillor John Friend Pereira and Councillor Chris Paddis. Councillor Mal Osborne-Smith is maybe a minute or two late. I also acknowledge in attendance this evening our Chief Executive Officer, Mr Philip Storer, and our Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr Brian Wee. There are other officers in attendance tonight and they'll be introduced as required. Please note the Council meeting is being live streamed on the Council YouTube page so you can watch proceedings of the meeting, Councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting will also be recorded and made available on the Council website shortly after the meeting. I'll now move to apologies. Mr Wee, are there any apologies for this evening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Abuki's an apology for this evening and Councillor Osborne-Smith just stepped in.
Thank you, Mr Wee. We'll now move to item 2, adoption and confirmation of the minutes of the Council meeting held on 15th of September, 22nd of September and 13th of October 2025. Councillors, can I please have a motion to adopt and confirm the minutes? Councillor Hollingsworth.
I propose to move the minutes as circulated. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Galt.
Thus seconded, thank you.
Councillors, is anyone opposed? I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to item 3, declaration of conflict of interest of any councillor or council officer. Councillors and council officers, are there any conflicts of interest that you wish to foreshadow? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Sorry, I neglected to turn my...
Councillor Galt.
I have a material conflict of interest which I will raise during general business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Galt. Councillor Simfield.
Thank you. Yes, I have a general conflict of interest under section 127 of the Act in relation to item 8.6, which I'll declare at the time.
Thank you. Councillor Franco.
Yes, I also have a material conflict of interest that I'll raise in general business.
Thank you. And I'd also like to flag that I have a general conflict of interest, which I will raise with item 8.6. Councillors, just remember to raise those conflicts of interest when we reach that matter. We will now move to item 4, deputations, presentations, petitions, public submissions. Mr Wee, are there any deputations or petitions this evening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are no deputations or petitions this evening.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 5, informal meetings of councillors. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion in relation to informal meetings of councillors as appearing on screen? Councillor Friend Pereira.
I'd be happy to move the motion as it appears on the screen.
Thank you. Anyone second? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Yes, happy to second, thanks.
Councillors, is anyone opposed? I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We will now move to item 6, public question time. Council encourages the submission of public questions prior to 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Questions submitted prior to 12 noon will be provided with a detailed verbal response as well as a response in writing. Those submitted after 12 p.m. will receive a verbal response if possible, but will otherwise be taken on notice for a more comprehensive written response to be provided in due course. Mr Wee, do we have any public questions?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are 2 public questions this evening from 1 member of the community.
Thank you for the questions. All questions have been allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Governance Rules. All questions will receive a written response in due course. Both questions are from Ian Huntley, and the first one is, Maintaining consistent property front setbacks. Has council yet established policy and procedures which would maintain a consistent street alignment for the front boundaries of all properties in streets where property owners have in years gone by, inadvertently or otherwise, occupied parts of road reserves, and if so, will council now make the policy and procedures available to the public? I call upon the Acting Chief Financial Officer to respond to this question.
Thank you, Chair. Council acknowledges the complexities associated with historical encroachments onto road reserves, particularly in parts of Balwyn North, where a pattern of frontage occupations dating back decades has been identified. While this issue is not widespread across the municipality, Council understands the importance of ensuring fair and consistent considerations of such matters where they do occur. At present, Council has not established a policy or procedure for reassigning road reserve land to adjoining property owners. Instead, each case is assessed individually through a statutory process guided by Council's Discontinuance of Roads and Reserves Policy 2022, which is publicly available. This framework ensures transparency, includes community consultation, and considers the public interest before any reassignment or sale of land is contemplated. Council officers have explored precinct-based approaches in areas with known encroachments. However, no endorsed solution currently exists for addressing multiple properties simultaneously. Council continues to assess each matter on its merits and in accordance with the adopted policy and legislative requirements. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your question, Mr Huntley. The second question, again by Mr Huntley, is threat to canopy tree cover on private properties in Boroondara. Will the introduction of Planning Scheme Amendment VC 289 into the Boroondara Planning Scheme last month by the Victorian Government, in the absence of dialogue and consultation with citizens and representative organisations, threaten the enhancement of canopy tree cover on private properties in Boroondara, and if so, in which ways? I call upon the Director of Urban Living to respond to this question.
Thanks, Mayor. The tree controls introduced by the state government through Amendment VC 289 require planting permits for trees located in the front 6 metres and rear 4.5 metres of sites in specified zones, including in particular residential zones. The changes also set out requirements for replacement tree planting. The changes provide for an alternative approach to protecting tree canopy and requiring replanting on private land. It is in fact expected that there may be more trees protected due to the broader canopy tree definition in relation to height, trunk circumference and canopy diameter in the planning scheme compared to the Boroondara Tree Protection local law.
Thank you, Mr Walker, and thank you for your question, Mr Huntley. We'll now move to item 7, notices of motion. Mr Wee, do we have any notices of motion?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no notices of motion this evening.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the item 8, presentation of officer reports. First one up is 8.1, the Boroondara Community Plan 2025 to 2035 for adoption. This item will be introduced by Nicole White, Manager of Strategy and Performance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's endorsement of the Boroondara Community Plan 2025-35, incorporating the Community Vision, Council Plan and Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, and also the 25-26 performance measure targets in line with the refreshed Boroondara Community Plan. The plan presented tonight is the result of an 18-month engagement with our community through 3 key consultation stages. We began with a survey last year, receiving 5,632 responses to a survey which asked our community what was important to them. Then in early 2005, we held community workshops with a representative sample of residents from different ages, backgrounds and neighbourhoods. A total of 163 community members participated in these workshops, exploring survey results and priorities for the next 10 years. From these 2 stages, we were able to develop the new draft plan. Finally, we put the draft plan on exhibition from the 27th of August to 15th of September, gathering feedback from 105 community members. Community feedback across all 3 stages identified 41 areas the community wanted us to focus on, ranging from preserving and increasing green spaces, active travel, rates and cost of living, libraries, and lifelong learning facilities, to name a few. The most recent feedback reinforced our previous consultation. 2/3 of respondents provided feedback relating to focus areas already identified in earlier consultations. 37 respondents explicitly supported the draft plan, and 29 community members suggested improvements such as implementation and document presentation. Key changes in response to this feedback include adding context to the start of the document to describe the role of the community plan as a guiding strategic document, plus a link to the later section that explains how we'll deliver on the plan. Second, we've moved the performance measures from an appendix into the main body, strengthening our focus on implementation and reducing duplication. And finally, we'll also produce a summary version for the community that presents the key information in a more condensed format. And this will respond to those who prefer a shorter document. Council also worked with the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation to translate the 4 themes of the plan into Woiwurrung language. With the adoption of the renewed plan, a new 25-26 performance measure targets are also proposed to set out in attachment 2. And once adopted, these will supersede the strategic indicators and targets in the 25-26 annual budget. The office's recommendation is a revised recommendation as shown on the screen. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That includes our comments.
Thank you very much, Ms White. And as you said, the presentation of this plan is a culmination of 18 months' worth of work by the City of Boroondara officers. And to them and to you, I simply say thank you. And your care and passion for our community is obvious when you read this document, and you've created something truly special. I also wanted to acknowledge the extraordinary level of community engagement that has brought this plan to life. More than 5,600 contributions throughout the planning process. Your voices, the voices of the community, have directly influenced the visions, aims and priorities we've set and the future we're planning for. I thank each and every one of you who took the time to participate. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? So I am now in search of a motion. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion? Councillor Nolan.
Happy to move the motion that officer's recommendation be accepted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? So, Councillor Nolan, as the mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Briefly, thank you. Through you, Mayor. I'd echo those thoughts you just made, Mayor, in terms of the amount of work. Personally, I've been along to a couple of workshops, and to see how this plan has been put together over 18 months, to see how we've moved, in particular from 7 themes to our themes of our community, or these pillars now, our community, our places, our environment, and our council, I think gives a lot of clarity to our most highest order strategic document, which is encompassing our community's views, encompasses our finances, and encompasses our public health and well-being. So very happy to commend this to fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. Councillor Baillieu is a seconder. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. We'll now move to item 8.2, the asset plan. This item will be introduced by Anthony Stratakopoulos, the Manager of Asset and Capital Planning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents to Council the draft Boroondara Asset Plan 2025 to 2035 for consideration. The asset plan is a strategic and public-facing document developed in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020 and reflects the requirement to review and adopt a revised plan by the 31st of October, following each general election. The plan outlines how Council will manage its infrastructure assets to support the objectives of the Boroondara Community Plan while operating within the framework of the long-term financial plan. Its purpose is to ensure the sustainable development and responsible management of assets in line with Council's strategic priorities. The plan identifies areas where additional investment may be considered in the context of future budgets and again with the long-term financial plan. The report recommends that the Boroondara Asset Plan 2025 be adopted. Please note the references missing in the current document due to format conversion errors. The references were to tables and figures already in the document, and no data was missing. These corrections will be made in the final document to be made available to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Friend Pereira.
Not a question, just indicating I'm ready to move a motion when colleagues are ready.
I think we might be ready, Councillor Friend Pereira.
I'd like to move the motion that's on the screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Happy to second, thanks, Chair.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? No. Councillor Friend Pereira, as the mover of the motion, do you wish to speak to it?
Just very briefly, Council's assets amount to over $4.7 billion if you were to try and put a cash value on them. So having an asset management plan which has involved community consultation, which is shown in attachment 2, and combines that with an objective assessment of the conditions of those assets really helps us plan how to manage the maintenance, renewal and upgrading of our extensive asset portfolio. So I commend the work of officers, I commend the work of the community who gave their feedback through the deliberative engagement process, and I think this gives us a very clear objective with 3 conditions to look at in how we manage that pipeline, that significant pipeline of asset renewals.
Thank you. Councillor Friend Pereira, would you be happy if we just adjusted that recommendation to, instead of as found in attachment 1, but as attached, annexed to the minutes? Are you happy with that change? Councillor Osborne-Smith as a seconder, are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that.
And would you wish to speak to the motion?
I'll say a few words, if I may. Endorsing Councillor Friend Pereira's comments about the importance of assets in our community, I'd like to remind everyone that the huge amount of infrastructure and assets we're talking about is quite mind-boggling that this council manages. 119 community buildings, over 80 sport and rec facilities, outdoor sports facilities, playing surfaces, 182 parks and green spaces in their dozens, network assets, roads, bridges and car parks, footpaths and cycleways, over 1,300 kilometres of footpaths and 40 kilometres of off-road paths, drainage and public lighting, just to mention a few. So a huge amount of assets we often take for granted, and the maintenance and the planning of those assets over a reasonable period of time over a 10-year plan is essential for the good and efficient running of our council. And I'd like to thank the various teams for their work in preparing this report, but also for their ongoing work in delivering these essential assets for the community of Boroondara. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move on to, thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 8.3, the Long-Term Financial Plan 2025-35 to 2034-35. This item will be introduced by Sapphire Allen, Acting Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the draft long-term financial plan for the period 2025 to 26 through to 2034-35. This plan provides a strategic financial framework to guide Council's decision-making over the next decade, ensuring we continue to deliver high-quality services, infrastructure and community outcomes while maintaining long-term financial sustainability. The long-term financial plan has been developed in alignment with the refreshed Boroondara Community Plan and Asset Plan, following extensive deliberative engagement with our community, which was undertaken throughout 2024 and 2025. It reflects our commitment to responsible financial management, compliance with the Local Government Act 2020, and the principles of transparency and equity. Key challenges addressed in the plan include rate capping, cost shifting from other levels of government, and despite these, Council remains in a sound financial position and is well placed to continue investing in what matters to our community. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only have one question of clarification, and then I'd also like to foreshadow moving a motion. The question I have is, could we, in the future, do some further analysis on the impact of cost shifting and look at various options and what it may do to our long-term financial plan?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Yes, we can definitely do more investigation into the effects of cost shifting from state and federal governments. It does require further analysis and more detailed across the organisation, but we can definitely do that.
Councillor Pattis, any further questions? No. Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Pattis, I'll come back to you for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as is written with an addition, which is up on our screen now. Would you like me to read it out, or?
Yes, why don't you?
The addition is number 2 there, that officers brief councillors on the effect of cost shifting from the state and federal government to the long-term financial plan and council's ongoing financial sustainability and council.
I think there's an apostrophe S. Council's ongoing. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Very happy to second, thank you.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? No. Councillor Pattis, as the mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, briefly, Mayor. I think our community would be surprised to hear that over 13% of the rates and fees we collect are to address cost shifting from the state government and other levels of government to council, as they either withdraw from funding services like libraries or impose surplus fees on us like the landfill levy that we pass on to our ratepayers. If we also include the fire services levy that we collect on behalf of the state government and we then pass on directly to the ratepayers, the community should realise that nearly 20% or more of the amount that they pay on their rate notices each year is in fact goes towards cost shifting or levy collection for non-council services. So that's why I think our long-term financial plan should take this growing cost shifting into account, and so that we're prepared in the long term should these costs increase further. As the long-term financial plan is only updated every 4 years, I think we should be ready to update it sooner should it be required. Hence, we need a briefing to inform us on whether any further update may be required in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Pattis. Councillor Hollingsworth is a seconder. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, with everyone's indulgence, I just wanted to thank Ms. Sapphire Allen for all of her work in preparing this. And as she was speaking, I was mindful of herself and most of our directors, managers, senior staff members were very much involved in the Boroondara Community Plan, attending the workshops, listening to our community, taking notes and listening intently. And so that, of course, has been encapsulated in our community plan, but it's also reflected in our long-term financial strategy. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all the officers involved as well, and it's a wonderful body of work, and thank you for the detail in it.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to item 8.4, Road Management Plan. This item will be introduced by Anthony Stratakopoulos. Sorry, Anthony, I did say it right before last time. Manager of Asset and Capital Planning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under the road management regulations, Council must review the road management plan every 4 years to ensure that it still reflects the way we manage, inspect and maintain our roads, and that it meets community expectations for a safe and well-presented network. The last full review was in 2021. This review aligns our plan with the MAV template for consistency across councils. No standards have been reduced, but some improvements are proposed, including additional intervention standards for path, retaining walls, laneways, vegetation clearances, as well as clear responsibilities around stormwater drains, vehicle crossings, and utility assets. The report recommends the review be approved for public exhibition in accordance with the road management regulations. Council must give public notice of its intention to amend the road management plan and allow 28 days for submissions to be made on the proposed plan. Following this period, a further report will be provided to Council, considering any feedback with a view to adopt the plan for the 2026-2030 period.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to ask the officers, considering that not all of our roads in our city are our responsibility, and in fact there are many roads that are the responsibility of Vic Roads, just how hard does it make the job, our job, in terms of getting feedback, getting complaints, getting our residents talking to us about roads and the quality of roads, when in fact often they may be mistaking a road for a Vic Roads road. If you could just talk about the complexity of this sort of policy in that sort of environment.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The road management plan as presented here is just for council roads. It doesn't cover the condition of state roads in that respect and the processes that the state undertake for the management of their own roads. From a community perspective, however, roads aren't shown to be state or local. People cannot distinguish that in a day-to-day sense. So generally we find that complaints about roads come to council and then they're assessed about whose road that is at that point in time. We have seen through previous rounds of consultation around performance indicators that state roads have performed poorly. When we've had community satisfaction surveys undertaken, we've delved further through the questioning of that to ask people to identify the particular roads that they have concerns when they provide those ratings, and often they are state-based roads. We provide that information then on through to the state government for consideration in the management of their roads.
Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you. Just a question on process in relation to this. The wording is slightly different to what we might ordinarily see. So are we approving the review or are we endorsing the attachment? And is it just public notice or is it consultation per se?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the review is what has been provided and is shown in attachment 1. You'll see that's a marked up version to show where the particular items of amendment proposed as part of that review are. The road management regulations provide this as an exhibition period where people will effectively provide comment back for consideration at that. It operates effectively similarly to a consultation period we might do under our community engagement policy, but given it's something that's undertaken in accordance with those regulations, it's an exhibition period.
Thank you.
Councillor Friend-Pereira.
Sorry, just a brief question for officers. Within this new road management plan, could you speak briefly to the approach we're taking to vertical clearances of shrubs and whatnot on shared paths?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The clearance is 2.5 metres in a vertical sense above that, which allows for effectively a person on a bicycle to riding along at that height.
And could you say anything as to our approach, any changes we're taking to the standards being applied?
Again, thank you, and through you, Mayor. This will be an improvement of the approach that we'll take. A number of our shared paths are not subject to the road management plan, however, are treated as assets more broadly across the city. that is a similar treatment level that we're seeking to provide in open space areas or just as asset-based paths as well.
Councillor Friend Pereira.
Oh, no, just indicating, foreshadowing a motion.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne-Smith.
I had a similar question to Councillor Friend Pereira, but I might just ask an additional one on this vertical clearance issue, which interests me, and I think interests the public very much so because of the importance of canopy and vegetation and the like. This applies, of course, to roadways and footpaths, not just shared trails and the like. Does it increase the height clearance from current requirements?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's no change to the footpath clearance heights for vegetation on footpaths.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for Mr. Statokopoulos or Mr. Freer, just with regard to the compliance auditing element of this. I wanted to seek advice on the rehabilitation of existing assets, and I'll use the example of Golflinks Estate with concrete roads and crossovers that in the past, inadvertently, there's been some mismatch of concrete colour to replace or reinstate or rehabilitate. Is this going to have a little bit more strength with regard to the auditing and compliance? Will there be a higher degree of scrutiny to cross-reference that the correct concrete match has been applied?
Again, through you, Madam Mayor, this document is not one that's driven by materiality or aesthetic treatments. It is much more around compliance and inspection with level differences or cracking or condition-based assessments.
Thank you. If I might just to follow up then, the document to have that quality control of the actual rectification work, is that something that's going to be going through a review around the same time?
Through you again, Madam Mayor, the roads material policy, which was recently adopted by Council, considers the materiality of treatments across the city for when we undertake works. Our renewal and capital programs really are based on specifications for compliance and Vic Roads and other treatments, Australian standards and the like. Council does attempt in each of those cases to ensure there is some consistency of materiality, so we're able to blend new with old where it's required.
Thank you.
Councillor Gold.
Thanks very much. If I could return to clearance on footpaths and, for instance, shared trails, do we inspect those and ensure those clearances are there, or do we rely on the public coming in and complaining about them?
In through you, Madam Mayor, we have inspectors that cover all of our footpaths and roads across the city to understand those. The frequency on our shared trails is different. It's slightly less, and given that those shared paths and off-road trails are not covered by the Road Management Act in that way.
How often would you inspect footpaths in normal residential areas?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. They're inspected annually in a general sense. However, those around high-profile areas like a school or a shopping centre are inspected every 6 months.
I'm just reminded, when I take my morning walk, I tend to walk on the roadside rather than the inside to stop ducking all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Friend Pereira, I think you foreshadowed a motion.
Yes, I did indeed. I'd like to foreshadow moving the motion that's on the screen.
Or would you just like to move it?
Sorry, yes, move it.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Happy to second, thanks, Chair.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? No. Councillor Friend Pereira, as the mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just very briefly, I think this is a core requirement. It's what our community would expect us to be able to do. I like that we're always looking for some efficiencies and higher standards, which Mr. Freer has spoken about tonight. It's a huge network of roads and footpaths, I think, well over 1,200 kilometres of footpaths and a similar proportion for roads. I would note that generally our roads are rated in very, very good condition. 44% very good, 26% good, 17% fair. So 87% of our road network is fair to very good. And I think often people do have some confusion as to what's a council road, which is exceptionally well maintained as opposed to those maintained by other authorities. With that, I think this is a good way forward, and it sets good response standards, and it's very useful for our community to have it. And yes, let's get on with it.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne-Smith has a second. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Stratokopoulos. We'll now move to item 8.5. The 2025-26 Annual Community Strengthening Grant Allocations. This item will be introduced by Fiona Brown, Manager of Community Development.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, the purpose of tonight's report is to present the 25-26 annual grants and the climate action grants to Council for noting. The annual grants fund project and equipment costs for programs that strengthen the local community. Climate action grants fund projects and activities that support the community's capacity to adapt to the impacts of climate change. Up to $10,000 is available for each. The forecast funding pool for the annual grants is $643,936, and following the allocation of the small grants and two grants to assist Christmas carol events, we have $459,179 remaining for allocation. 126 applications were received, requesting $889,387. A report with the panel's recommended allocations was presented to the Director, Community Services, who approved 111 applications, totalling $459,179 for funding by an instrument of subdelegation dated the 4th of July 2025. These are listed in attachment 1. 3 applications were received for the climate action grants. A report with the panel's recommended allocations was presented to the Director, Places and Spaces, who approved these 3 applications, totalling $17,064 for funding by an instrument of subdelegation dated 4th of July 2024. These are listed in attachment 2. So the recommendations is up on the screen, which is for Council to note the 25-26 annual community strengthening grants as listed in attachment 1 annexed to this report, and to note the 25-26 climate action grants as listed in attachment 2 annexed to the report as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Brown. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of really worthy projects here as part of the annual Community Strengthening Grants Allocations program. Obviously, not everything could be approved. There are a number of projects that weren't able to be approved. I just want to ask the officers, in general, what sort of principles do we use for when we don't approve something for a grant allocation?
Through you, Madam Mayor, each application is assessed on its merit. So there's a couple of criteria. So the demand for the project needs to be established, and those that are not funded, often they have not been able to establish a demand. Sometimes they're for ineligible projects or they're ineligible applicants. So this year there were, I think, 12 applications that were not approved for funding. The competitive nature of this round meant that there were more applications not funded this time round. We also had a much higher proportion that received partial funding compared to previous rounds. I think in all we had 50 applications more than last year.
And I might just add that we provide feedback to grant applicants who aren't successful or might not have received the full funding about how they can strengthen their application moving forward.
Councillor Fran Pereira.
I like to move the motion that's shown on the
Foreshadow?
screen.
You want to foreshadow?
Foreshadow.
Thank you. Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you. And through you, I have a question in relation to page 1 of the report, which says, and I'm just seeking clarification, please. Key issues point 2, funding of up to $30,000 from the Climate Action Plan grants is allocated from the 25-26 $1 million budget for the Climate Action Plan. Is that, as far as proportionality is concerned, for the community playing along at home may be interested, is that still the current Climate Action Plan allocation?
No, it's
30,000 for climate action grants, yes, that is still the case.
More specifically, the budget for the Climate Action Plan, apologies, which is referenced
It's
here.
actually not 1 million, it's a $4 million budget, or 3.9. Sorry, Sapphire, Acting Chief
you, Chair.
Financial Officer.
Great. I'll just confirm the Climate Action Plan budget for the 25-26 year is 3.9 million.
Thank you.
Councillors, are there any further questions? Okay, I'm in search of a motion. Councillor Baillieu.
Just had one question of officers. I apologise, Chair. The Linden Park Scout Group electrification, is that the first grant of its type, noting the changes earlier in the year to enable community groups to electrify with climate action grants?
Yes, that would be the case.
Fantastic.
Councillor Friend-Pereira, I'll come to you in a moment. Councillor Pattis, your light's on. Do you have a question?
I was going to wait for the mover to move, and then I was hoping to second, Madam
Thank you,
Mayor.
Councillor Pattis. Councillor Friend-Pereira.
I'll enable my colleague to second by moving the motion as shown on the screen.
Thank you. Councillor Pattis.
Happy to second,
To
Madam Mayor.
assist the mover, is anyone opposed? No. Councillor Friend-Pereira, as the mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Again, I'll be very brief. I've always maintained that our community grants scheme is one of the most powerful tools that council has. Even if we're spending 15 million on roads and we're only allocating $500,000 to grants, the difference that can make across every single community, every ward, so many community groups benefit. And I believe what we've seen is a significant uptick in both the number of applications coming through, the funds being dispersed, and that this is perhaps a sign of where our community is at. And for me, the grants program is no better of an indication of how promptly we can respond in a responsive manner to what the community is wanting to do. For relatively small amounts of money, from $3,000 to $10,000, we can get support very worthwhile causes across all of our community themes, and I wholeheartedly commend this disbursement of funds to our community.
Councillor Pattis is the seconder to the motion. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Very briefly, I think it's really important just to highlight some wonderful things that we've provided grants for that are going to help a very large portion of our community. And I just wanted to highlight a few cross-section. The Baldwin Evergreen Centre, exercise equipment for older people. Giant Steps, it's a program for autistic children. Mind Australia, which is a healthy eating program for people with mental health and social isolation challenges. Men's Shed in North Baldwin and Men's Table, which both connect local men and reduce social isolation. And we've got two that are to do with our retail precincts. The Greythorn shopping area in Baldwin North, it's going to have a story seat, which is going to be able to provide local history and a shopping break for older people like me and parents with children. And Mailing Road is going to get a month-long worth of celebrations to really encourage people to leverage our vibrant retail precincts. Some really worthy, all of them were worthy recipients, but I just wanted to highlight a few that certainly struck a chord with me.
Thank you, Councillor Pattis. Noting that this motion wasn't opposed, Councillor Baillieu, are you still wishing to have a
Just one quick thing, Mayor, which is to express my absolute excitement that the changes to climate action grants have got us to the point where, for the first time ever, a climate action grant enables a community group to electrify. I applaud the Linden Park Scout Group. I think this is a fantastic step forward, and I'm excited for many community groups to nominate their own projects in this space going into the future.
Thank you. Councillor from Pereira, you've already spoken to the motion. I'm about to put it to a vote.
With your indulgence, I have made a slight oversight. I forgot to acknowledge the phenomenal contribution of the Rotary Club of Baldwin and our Rotary clubs in contributing towards this fund, and I think that needs to be acknowledged.
Thank
that
you,
it is a
Councillor
partnership.
from Pereira. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We now move on to item 8.6, significant tree register update. I note there are some conflicts. Councillor Sinfield.
That's correct. I'd like to declare a conflict in relation to this item. It's a general conflict under section 127 of the Act, and I'll vacate my seat.
Thank you. I would also like to declare a conflict. It's a general conflict under the same Act regulation, and I will vacate the chair, and Councillor Victor Franco, our Deputy Mayor, will take over.
Thank you, colleagues. Okay, we're agenda item 8.6, the significant tree register update 2025. This item will be introduced by Joel Elborn, the Manager of Urban Planning.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you, this report recommends adding 312 new trees to Boroondara's significant tree register. This follows a consultation process and consideration of submissions at the Services Delegated Committee meeting in August, and the report gives further consideration to issues raised by submitters at that meeting. This includes the consideration of additional information provided in relation to one tree which is no longer recommended for inclusion on the register. The report also outlines support options for owners of significant and canopy trees for consideration in the budget process. I'll just bring to your attention also an amended officer recommendation, which we'll place up on the screen. The recommendation is indicating that we wish to add an additional property in the register to reflect the fact that the tree in question is located on two properties, and we're suggesting that the register be updated to reflect this. We have been in discussions with the owner of number 20 Howard Street today, who has indicated that they are comfortable with this change and have provided that in writing to us. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions of officers? Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, through you, to the officers. So if we're saying that the tree is located on two properties, does that mean that the roots or the trunk of the tree sit across those two properties? I just want to clarify why we're saying it's located on two properties.
Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor, the trunk is located on two properties to the point where we're unable to say where the tree commenced growing.
Councillor Galt.
Thank you very much. No question at this point in time, but I'd like to foreshadow a motion.
Councillor Friend Pereira.
Thank you, Chair. Officers, could you just maybe elaborate a little bit more on the next steps should this significant tree register be updated tonight as to what would happen with regards to how we're seeking as a municipality to get greater protection for these trees, and how the community will be consulted?
Okay, thank you, and again through you, Deputy Mayor, certainly updating residents that will now be included in the updated register is a key step here. There are other projects to consider, planning scheme protections for canopy trees as we define them, but also the significant trees, which is the list that we're adding to this evening.
So just for absolute clarity, anybody who has concerns that this will somehow trigger an automatic overlay, there are still steps to go through towards getting an overlay.
Yeah, to be clear, this a decision tonight does not further the project in relation to seeking planning scheme overlays for significant trees.
Deputy Mayor, can I just maybe add to that? Sorry, it's Scott Walker here, Director of Urban Living. If I just maybe clarify, there is a separate consultation process that has been undertaken in regard to replacing the tree protection local law with planning scheme controls in relation to canopy trees and significant trees. So there's been initial consultation undertaken. That consultation will be reported back to Council for consideration and a decision whether to formally request a planning scheme amendment from the Minister for Planning or authorisation for a planning scheme amendment to pursue those formal controls in the planning scheme. So that is a separate process. There is separate consultation.
Councillors, are there any further questions? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Chair. My question's similar to Councillor Friend-Pereira with regard to protections of trees and the concern that with the register, if it is endorsed by Council to support the increased volume of trees here, whether or not there could be a high degree of scrutiny and risk applied to these trees by some that may not support their viability. Are you able to explain, and if I might go to Mr. Walker first, when you talked about the planning scheme amendment, if Burundara Council was of a mind to support recommendations to further strengthen tree controls and protections, if it was then submitted to the state government to go through an amendment process, would there be an interim overlay protection or some type of protection on those trees during that process?
Thanks. Happy to clarify that. At the moment, we have a tree protection local law. And under the tree protection local law, there is protection for canopy trees and there is specific additional or slightly alternative protections for significant trees on the significant tree register. Those controls under the tree protection local law are in place now and will be in place and will continue to be in place as we pursue any planning scheme amendment. The methodology for pursuing those planning scheme amendments are still yet to be finalised. However, there's not a usual process like heritage overlays to have an interim significant tree control in the planning scheme. In this case, I don't believe that will be necessary given that we have got existing controls under the tree protection local law for those trees.
Thank you. And if I might just have a follow-up question, because there's quite a few residents in the Linden ward that have come to me and expressed concerns about the rapid loss of tree. And they've asked if we could articulate what is Council's capability at this current moment in time to protect, and I'll talk about the significant tree, but my understanding is there is a limit of a penalty that Council can impose if a tree is illegally removed or poisoned or compromised to a state where it can no longer be viable to save. Are you able to talk a little bit about Council's current ability to exercise infringements, and is it just one infringement or can it be across multiple perpetrators, for example, property owner, illegal tree removal, someone that might have deliberately tampered with a tree? Are you able to explain what the current process allows?
Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor, there's different considerations depending if we're issuing infringements under the planning scheme or under the tree protection local law. In relation to the local law, there is an ability to pursue multiple owners as well as those on site carrying out the breach. Under the planning scheme, we are able to issue infringements against the owner of the land and also the person carrying out the breach.
And so that could be multiple penalties across multiple parties.
Single penalties to multiple people. Under the planning scheme, there could be breaches of multiple triggers, and there are considerations there as to whether it would be appropriate to issue multiple infringements to multiple people per trigger.
Thank you. And just one final question. If a neighbour or a passerby suspects that there's been inappropriate treatment to a significant tree, could you just, for the benefit of the gallery and people listening, state what the best course of action is for them to report that to council?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the best way to do that is either online. We have an e-form that people can submit information and photos, or call our urban planning team, or call the officers, and one of my team will investigate.
And could they be anonymous if they wished?
Yes, they can. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Colleagues, are there any further questions? If not, I'll ask a couple of questions of my own to the officers. The owner of 2022 Howard Street has written to all councillors pointing out process shortcomings that have resulted in that owner and the neighbouring owner at 20 Howard Street from being unable to participate in the committee discussions, and also in relation to follow-up correspondence and obtaining a copy of the relevant arborist report, etc. Could officers articulate why, despite those repeated attempts, there seemed to be some communication failure with those two owners?
Thank you. Yes, we're aware that councillors have been provided information in relation to 22 Howard Street. That owner is indicating that they did not receive the invitation to make a submission to the services delegated meeting back in August. So that means they did not have that opportunity, and also could not speak or make a presentation at that particular meeting.
And is it correct they made numerous repeated attempts to get in contact through September and October? That is correct.
Yes, I understand.
And why would it be that failed?
I understand that the emails were registered as if they were new nominations for our next round of significant trees, and that there were delays in responding to the residents' attempts for that reason.
Thank you. And a further question in relation, councillors have also received today correspondence from the owner of 20 Howard Street saying that they had contacted council on October 14 also about the same communication failures, and noting that the consultation had been inadequate. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm aware of that email. I've seen that today. In relation to the process failures, is that claim correct?
Yes.
I can't comment on that, but it does appear that there was an email from that resident to the officers.
And finally, in relation, if council were of a mind to exclude this tree, given the situation with those particular owners, and given that the tree does appear to be well cared for, could that tree simply remain and be considered for future inclusion on the significant tree register rather than simply including it now, given the current situation?
The tree would continue to be protected under the local law as canopy tree, and could be considered through a future process for adding additional significant trees. So could be picked up and processed appropriately at that time.
Thank you. So, colleagues, I'm now in search of a motion. I think Councillor Galt, you foreshadowed that you would be moving a motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd be very pleased to move the motion as it appears on the screen at the moment. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Mal Osborne-Smith.
Be happy to second the motion. Thank you, Chair.
I'd like to see if there's any opposition, but before doing so, I'd like to suggest, put to Councillor Galt a potential amendment to the motion to see if Councillor Galt would be willing to consider it, given the situation with 20 and 22 Howard Street and offices. Oh, Councillor Hollingsworth, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I can appreciate while you're in the position of Chair, it's difficult to propose an amendment, but I would like to put to the mover of the motion an amendment to extract Howard Street for now, to give officers the additional time to consult with the property owners and investigate if there's been a communication error, if there's some elements that need further consideration. So I would like to propose an amendment to excise it. To excise number 4.
Would you like to propose an amendment, Councillor Hollingsworth, or would Councillor Galt be willing to consider it as an amendment to his?
Would you mind if I just asked for a clarification of the status of 20 Howard Street and 22 Howard Street at the moment? Is it included in the 312 or is additional or a previous list?
If we were to take this tree out, we would then be down to 311 trees.
So it's amending what we're putting up tonight?
That's correct.
So we would then amend clause 1 as well, I would think? Or would we just note the 312 and then take it off through clause 4, which would be the most convenient? I'd seek some guidance.
There has been some wording that I'm aware of that achieves that without amending point 1, but you could also update that as well.
It might be timely to put that wording up so for Councillor Hollingsworth, so it can be considered whether for a seconder or for Councillor Galt.
Happy to accept that amendment and to move the motion as it now stands on the screen.
I'd have to reach out to Councillor Mal Osborne-Smith as the seconder of the motion to see if you're supportive of seconding that particular motion.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
It appears Suri is as well.
Siri has some issues, yes. So to assist the mover, are there any objections to the motion as it stands? So there being no objections, I'll invite Councillor Galt to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I found this to be an excellent report. The level of detail that had been gone into by the officers and the amount of work they put in to follow this up, the photographs of each tree proposed, the details of that tree and why it's being put forward. Basically, I'd welcome the addition of 311 new trees onto the list. We will be sad to see 26 go, but there's clearly very good reasons for it. And I would note that there are options that we will consider later in a budget proposal to look at potential support for private property owners with regard to trees on the total list. Canopy trees get some protection, so do significant trees. And as we've discussed earlier this evening, the new planning changes are proposing to give them a much higher level of protection, which I look forward to greatly. But having said that, significant trees, an elevation of any tree to significant gives it significant more protection to start off with. And we have some wonderful trees, particularly the ones we've seen on this list, that really do need protection. I've read through it and was delighted by it. I understand many of my colleagues have too, and I think there's a high level of support. So I encourage you all to support this motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Galt. Councillor Mal Osborne-Smith, noting that there's no opposition. Would you still like to say a few words?
Just a few words, if I may. Chair, trees are the heart of our city. And it's the reason many of us choose to live here. Significant trees are often many, many decades old, have outlived, or pre-lived us, and may well outlive many of us. And they clearly sit at the apex of our tree hierarchy, and it is important and appropriate that they be recognised, identified, cherished, and protected. So I very much endorse the register's expansion that we're seeing before us tonight. Thank the officers for their diligence in supporting the community in identifying these trees, and welcome the ongoing protection and the like of these very important assets in our city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne-Smith. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. I'll now vacate the chair and ask for the Mayor to return and the other councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Franco. We'll now move on to item 8.7, the proposed removal of reserve status and sale of drainage reserve traversing 26 Van Ness Avenue, Glen Iris. This item will be introduced by Michael Hutchinson, Head of Strategic Property and Rates.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Councillors, before you is a report to consider commencement of the statutory procedures to remove the reserve status and sell the 3.6 metre wide drainage reserve traversing the property at 26 Van Ness Avenue, Glen Iris. The location is shown in attachment 1 of the report. Council received a request from the owner of 26 Van Ness Avenue, Glen Iris to remove the reserve status and purchase the drainage reserve traversing their property. The land is shown as Lot 1 on the proposed plan of subdivision in attachment 2 of the report. In summary, the reserve is in the name of the original subdivider, is considered by officers to be no longer required for the purpose for which it was reserved and is of little value to council, has been enclosed within 26 Van Ness Avenue for more than 15 years, and contains a drain, a council drain, which will be protected by the creation of a drainage easement in favour of council. The owner has made a conditional offer to purchase the reserve in accordance with council's discontinuance of roads and reserves policy 2022, and has agreed to meet council's costs associated with the removal of the reserve status and sale. Should council resolve to commence the statutory procedures, a public notice will be placed on council's website and written notification will be provided to all abutting property owners inviting submissions on the proposal. If any submissions are received, a further report will be presented to a future meeting of the Services Delegated Committee to enable consideration of the submissions and for a decision on whether to proceed with the removal of the reserve status and sale. If no submissions are received, the Chief Executive Officer or such other person as the Chief Executive Officer approves will undertake the necessary procedural steps to complete the formal process for the removal of the reserve status and sale of the reserve. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Galt.
Mr. Hutchinson, can I get you to clarify a point that I think you said? Did you say within this easement there is in fact a drain that continues to be live?
Thank you, and through you, Chair, there is a council stormwater drain that traverses through that reserve.
if, and I can't see why this would occur, but should an adjoining owner need to connect to that council drain at any one point in time, and this easement ceases to exist, how do they go about
it? In this particular instance, we are proposing that the easement be created to protect that asset and therefore run with the title of the land. If there wasn't an easement there, I guess through their application for whatever they're doing, that need to be examined through that particular process, such as the planning process or building process.
So the advantage to the property owner of acquiring what's there at the moment is that they could potentially build over it, but they'd be building over an easement, I would presume.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. That's correct. They would need to get the proper approvals to have any build over easement application. That's addressed in the report as well.
Okay, thanks very much.
Councillor Friend Pereira.
Thank you. A brief one from me. Just wondering, I think this is maybe only the second or third reserve sale that I can recall. The funds raised, where do they land within council's financial systems?
Thank you, and through you, Chair, they go into council's operating budget under a right-of-ways sales account. Under revenue.
Councillor Friend Pereira, any further questions?
No, that's it, thank you.
Councillors, I'm in search of a motion. Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the office as a recommendation.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? Councillor Franco, as the mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just a few very brief comments. Mayor, I'm very pleased with the officer's report. It's work that we've asked council officers to undertake, and I think it'll be, whilst there's still a process to go through, it will result in a potentially good outcome both for the property owner in question and for council, and addressing some of the unusual property issues that we have in place, while also returning some funds to council for that property in question. So I commend the motion and the report and advice from officers.
Thank you, councillors. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move on to item, thank you, Mr Hutchinson. We'll now move on to item 8.8, planning scheme anomalies, private properties. Adoption of Part 1 and abandonment of Part 2, Amendment C413BORO. This item will be introduced by Rachel Brian, Strategic Planner.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Good evening. Tonight's report is to seek council adoption of Amendment C413BORO relating to the corrections of planning scheme anomalies on privately owned land. On 6th of October 2025, the UPDC resolved to split the amendment into 3 parts. Part 1 relates to properties that have no submissions or only supporting submissions to be referred to council tonight for adoption. Part 2 relates to 2 Wentworth Avenue, Canterbury, to be referred to council tonight to be abandoned. And Part 3 relates to 3 to 5 and 17 Lynch Street, Hawthorn, and has been referred to an independent planning panel for consideration. The report seeks a resolution from the council to adopt Amendment C413 Part 1 and abandon Part 2. If supported, officers will submit Amendment C413 Part 1 to the Minister for Planning for final approval and inform of the abandonment of Part 2. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms Bryan. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? So no. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion? Councillor Galt.
Question.
Okay.
Sorry. Just a question similar to the one I asked before. Does council have any interest in any of these portions of land which would require an easement or anything similar to that? Or they really have no interest to council whatsoever?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. No, there's no interest that council needs to protect. There's been an internal consultation process, including the property services team, to make sure that there's no interest that council would need to protect.
Councillors, I'm in search of a motion. Councillor Friend Pereira.
Happy to move the motion as shown on the screen.
Thank you. And I'm in search of a seconder. Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? Councillor Friend Pereira, is the mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No.
Councillors, I'm going to put the motion to the vote. Anyone, all those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Next up, thank you, Ms Bryan. Next up, item 8.9, contract 2024/27, amenity pruning and electrical line clearance. This item will be introduced by David Shepherd, Manager of Environmental Sustainability and Open Spaces.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. This report considers the award of contract 2024/27 for amenity tree pruning and electrical line clearance. The contract provides planned pruning services to all of our street trees and trees under electrical wires and makes a significant contribution to the safety and presentation of our city. To enhance this service, the new contract separates inspections, block pruning and formative pruning and increases the frequency of pruning. This will allow us to increase canopy cover by minimising the clearance distance to electric wires, cutting less more often. The tender saw a number of high-quality submissions for each part of the contract, and after a thorough evaluation, I'm pleased to present the officer recommendation toward this contract to the tenderers as shown on the screen. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Many of us appreciate that the pruning of trees in Boroondara causes, for many of our residents, tremendous distress from time to time, and it's a very emotional part of the work carried out by council. Could the officers please give us some assurances about what protections this contract renewal will have to avoid over-pruning or the overzealous pruning of trees that we sometimes see? And the second question, or part to my question, if I may, is could you explain why shortening the periods of pruning, or as you said, cutting less but more often, how that would result in a better outcome for tree pruning? I don't quite understand that point. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. One of the advantages of this new contract structure is that we have separated the inspections from the pruning, so that we have separate contractors undertaking those two pieces of work, which means that when the inspection is undertaken, that'll specify the amount of pruning that needs to be undertaken by a second contract, thus giving us greater control over the level of works that are undertaken. We then manage this contract very closely to ensure that pruning is undertaken to the required standards and done in such a way that avoids over-pruning. As you mentioned, we have had some recent incidents of that, unfortunately, through our current contract, and this new contract structure will lead us to avoiding that in future. The increased frequency allows us to do a number of things, so reducing the distance to the electrical wires, so we don't have to cut back as far, so we can allow growth a little bit closer, so that during the period that we are not there, it doesn't grow within the legislated clearance distances, and so we still manage to be compliant whilst cutting a little bit less. But it also allows us to cut more structurally, so that we can assist the branches to grow up and around the wires as well, and remain compliant in that way.
Thank you very much. May I have just a little follow-up question? I appreciate that answer. That was very helpful. So could I understand after the initial inspection is done, is there an oversight by council officers, a review, if you like, of what those recommendations are before you then authorise the second contractor to do those works? And I guess secondly, once those works, those pruning works are done, what follow-up checking is done by council office to ensure that they've been done correctly?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Due to the volume of the amount of work in this contract, we are not checking every inspection before it is passed on to the next contractor, but we are auditing those inspections on a regular basis, so undertaking audit of a percentage of that work so that we understand that the inspections are to the standard that we want. And similarly with the pruning works that are undertaken, we inspect a percentage of the works to ensure that they are compliant and undertaken in accordance with the contract. Where we've run into issues, as we have done this year, then we lift that level of percentage, and we have been working with crews proactively to ensure that they understand exactly what the contract requirements are before they undertake works.
Thank you. Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, to the officers. Considering contract Part B in particular is what I'd like to ask a question about. Considering this, the Part B of the contract is a very, very large value over 6 years, and we're tendering to one supplier, and it's different to other tenders that we have where we have a panel. So when we have a panel, we can choose between contractors. In this case, we're awarding it all to one contractor. What is our fallback position, or what are our options if in fact there is a breach, or for whatever reason this contractor can't fulfil the contract? Do we have a plan B? Do we have some other contingency?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. The failure or non-conformance of a tender is a risk in any contract where we do appoint a single contractor. Should that occur, then we would need to go back to market or consider delivering the service in-house. We do have a number of smaller scale contractors, tree pruning contractors through our general services contract that we would be able to engage on a short-term basis to ensure that we keep up with the works whilst we work through a process to replace the larger scale block pruning contract.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I just thought of a second question, if I may. What is the reason why in this case we don't have a panel contract, unlike other tenders? Why in this case do we have one tenderer?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Due to the nature of the cyclic nature of these works, it is a regular program of works, and it was easier for us to structure it in this way. It would be an option to split the municipality and provide works to a number of different contractors, but we thought we would get best value for the organisation in producing this as one large package of work and enable the tenderer to submit on that basis.
Councillor Friend-Pereira.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I understand a few things, probably in relation to the Part B of this as well. So first off, as I understand it, we're clearly, as a council, we've made no secret of the advocacy that we're doing to get changes to the electrical line clearance via the Commission. Should those changes occur, I believe we should know in June 2026, how would any changes impact on the delivery of this contract?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, this is a schedule of rates contract, so even though we have estimated the total value of the contract based on the current legislation, should there be a change in the legislation, then the inspection part of this contract will find less works that need to be undertaken. The Part B, part of the contract, pruning, will therefore undertake less works, and council will pay less money for the contract works.
So the value that's currently there is under the current scheme, and should there be any change in our favour in terms of there may be a savings in
That is correct.
Can I also ask, I know that as part of the prep work for this, we looked at bringing it in-house. Can you say anything about what the considerations of bringing it in-house were? I'm just conscious that the independent assessment report, I don't think that was circulated to councillors. So maybe just some of the key things that warrant keeping this as an external contract.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. As with all contracts that we put to market, we do undergo consideration of whether council could run the service directly as well. This one we did spend a little bit more time and effort in doing so, and engaged an independent consultant to give us some further advice around that. That highlighted a number of challenges, I guess, in council delivering it, some of which were risks, insurances, work cover, the timeframes required to set up a service like this, and the capacity of our existing depot facilities.
Sorry, if I may, Chair, with that in mind, would it be worth doing another desktop review of taking this in-house in June 2026, should the standards set by the state government change that might have a material bearing on our capacity to do it in-house?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, we may consider re-looking at this in line with the end of the first term of this contract. This is a 3-year contract. As I mentioned, there is some lead time involved if council did want to make a decision like that. So exactly when that is, we would work it out and reconsider.
Thank you. With that in mind, I might like to foreshadow an emotion when the time is.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I could just add a comment to that, which would be to say that given this is a scheduled rates contract, council's only exposure is the amount of work it decides to commission itself. So even if those standards were to change, we would commission less work. All the work would need to be undertaken to a different standard. So in fact, there's no real benefit in doing that. And the work we did do demonstrated that the cost impact, if you like, of bringing it in-house did not in any way justify the risks associated with doing so. So that's not a proposition we would put to you.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is just with regard to the total cost of the contract. So my understanding is if this was supported by council, it would be for the 3 years. Is that correct, the monetary amount?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, the monetary amount that you see in the recommendations is for the maximum term of the contract, which is 6 years.
Because it talks about a 3-year contract and then with the option for the 2 extensions of 18 months each. So I'm just trying to understand the maximum total is for the 6 years, assuming that we will be absorbing the 2 18-month extensions. Is that correct?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, the reason that we write the resolution in this way is so that we don't need to come back to council after 3 years. There's a delegation to the director to exercise those options should the contract operate successfully.
Thank you. And my other question was, I think largely asked by Councillor Friend-Prieura with regard to the hopefully changes to legislation with the pruning requirements, so that we may be in a situation this time next year where there isn't the need to have such an aggressive clearance around the power poles, and that will obviously be better for the health of the tree, and our community will be a lot less traumatised as well. So I'm pleased to hear that you've stated...
Question, Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you. Stated that the contractor, in essence, is a single contractor because there will be consistency of pruning, and I also believe you've already answered the question with regard to the dual checking process and auditing. So I think all my questions have been answered. Thank
Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Following line of questions and comments from Councillor Friend-Prieura and Councillor Hollingworth, are we very confident the contractor is aware that of the potential change of regulations for electrical line pruning, which I think you said was potentially up for review or for a decision on June 2026?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, that is not a question we've directly asked the contractor. Regardless, they are required to prune in accordance with the legislation, and so if there are changes that come into effect, we will be communicating with them to ensure they're aware of that at that point in time.
Thank you. I think I would have thought it would be just worth the check, so there's no kickback if that goes through. Just noting that we are talking potentially millions of dollars across across the municipality and also other municipalities. And so just like to acknowledge the good work that the MAV is doing on this.
Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Final question, with your indulgence, Chair. Picking up on the point of Councillor Nolan, I'm keen to understand from the officer's perspective, and perhaps for the benefit of not only the chamber here tonight, but those in the public that may be listening and take great interest in this matter, can you give us assurances that these contractors will be appropriately briefed as to the extreme importance held by many in this community about the precision with which these trees are pruned? The feedback that I've had over many months now on multiple occasions is the cowboyness, if you like, of some of these contractors in the past. And I'm just wondering if you could give us some assurances about what briefings and what messages you're conveying on behalf of the residents of Boroondara to these contractors about the importance of precisely carrying out these works and not overstepping their mark.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. As you will have seen in the report and the confidential attachment, this was a thorough evaluation process to ensure that we are engaging a reputable tree pruning contract with lots of local government experience. Part of our contract management processes does include a pre-contract establishment meeting at which we will be reinforcing the messaging around the value of trees in Boroondara and our expectations around the standard of pruning. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have ongoing auditing and contract management levers and mechanisms to act should we need to continue to reinforce that message throughout the life of the contract.
Thank you. Councillor Friend Pereira, it might be time for your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as shown on the screen.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
So second, thanks, Chair.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? Councillor Friend Pereira, as the mover of the motion, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, briefly. More so to put out a call to action to our community. Successive councils, this one included in Boroondara, have been advocating very strongly to the state government, in particular the minister responsible, to revise the electrical line clearance standards via the consultative committee. I would like to acknowledge the outstanding work of Dr. Greg Moore, OAM, in this space, and we are hearing not just that how passionately our community feels about trees and tree protection, especially around electrical lines, but also the significant cost that this places on council's purse of over $4 million a year. So therefore, whether it is because you love trees or you would like to save some money, I think it is time for our community to get on to their state members of parliament, especially those affiliated with the current government, and make it clear that they expect these regulations to be revised in June 2026. And you can do so by going to the tree.org website and to the Greening Our Victoria website. Thank you.
Councillor Osborne-Smith, as a seconder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, and I'd just like to say thank you to Councillor Friend Pereira for those choice words, and I endorse very much his passionate support and encouragement for work at a state level to fix this outrageous situation that we have in this state about electrical line clearance. And thank you also to the MAV and representatives for their work they're doing, and applaud them to work at great haste to save what we can of our wonderful trees in Boroondara. Thank you very much.
Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. We'll move to item 8.10, review of instrument of delegation from council to council staff. This item will be introduced by Brian Wee, Manager of Governance and Legal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. This report brings the council the delegations under the Local Government Act that are regularly reviewed and brought to council to ensure they remain updated for statutory reasons as well as operational reasons. In this case, as the report indicates, some of the statutory reasons are to give urban planning forestry officers powers to consider permits, as has been discussed earlier tonight. It also changes the process by which planning decisions which are now deemed to comply come to this chamber. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Friend Pereira.
Thank you very much. I would like to foreshadow a motion.
Councillors? Councillor Friend Pereira, I'm right back at you.
Thank you very much. I personally have no wish to have to go out and enforce council's planning laws or bylaws. I don't know that my colleagues have either. I think we have utmost trust in our office.
Just searching for a motion at this point. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Happy to second, thank you.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? Councillor Friend Pereira, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Briefly, as I mentioned, I don't think I or any of my colleagues have a wish to be out on the streets of Burundara trying to enforce our bylaws and planning laws. So this is to ensure the smooth operation of council business, and that only those matters that need to come before councillors do so. Thank you.
I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to item 9, general business. I understand there is at least one item of general business, which is leave of absence. I believe there were foreshadow conflicts for this item. Councillor Gold?
I believe I have a material interest in what's about to be put on the screen, so I will depart the chamber.
Councillor Franco?
I also, Mayor, believe I'll have a conflict, so I'll leave.
General business.
Councillors, I am in search for a mover for the following motion appearing on the screen behind me. Councillor Franco's light's still on. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Happy to move the motion there, thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Happy to second, Chair.
Is any councillor opposed? I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Just wait for the councillors to come back. Okay, we have at least another item of general business. Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you, and I seek your indulgence to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of Adrian Campbell, a wonderful local Rotarian who passed away on the 13th of October 2025, aged 70 years. He passed away after a 17-year battle with multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer, surrounded by family, a devoted husband to Mandy, father of 6 and grandfather of 2. A loyal Rotarian and friend to many at the Rotary Club of Camberwell and beyond. Adrian was a Rotarian here locally for a long time and chose that club after being diagnosed with myeloma, as the Rotary Club of Camberwell leads the Rotary Outreach Myeloma program across Australia, supporting families living with myeloma in regional and remote communities. The award-winning program supports the work of Myeloma Australia, the only myeloma-specific charity in Australia. Through engagement with many Rotary clubs and their communities throughout regional Australia, they aim to make a positive difference to the lives of people in their communities who are living with the disease. ROMP recognises and celebrates the pivotal role of a registered nurse treating myeloma patients in regional cancer treatment centres, and annually provides postgraduate scholarships in cancer treatment for registered nursing applicants. Through nurse education, myeloma and all cancer treatments are enhanced and the life outcomes improved. Additionally, Adrian was passionate about service to the community, empowerment of youth, and the Peace in the World projects. He was instrumental in creating what's called Seeds of Peace, a remarkable effort that led to the Rotary Club of Camberwell receiving the first ever RSL Anzac Peace Prize in 2017, the first time in history it's ever been awarded to a Rotary Club. Adrian's remembered for his quiet strength, kindness and commitment to loved ones and in the community. He embodied every possible part of Rotary, particularly service above self. In his honour, donations to Myeloma Australia are appreciated by the family. Alternatively, donations of blood or plasma to Lifeblood, a gift that has sustained Adrian for so many years.
Thank you, Councillor Sinfield. Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Talking about veterans, for those that are not aware, many Australians fought side by side with Greeks in the Second World War against the forces of fascism to ensure we continue to enjoy the democratic freedoms we value today. Here in Boroondara, we have RSL veterans who are either Australian or of Greek heritage that will have fought in this war. Well, tomorrow, the 28th of October, is one of the 2 Greek national days, which we also called Orchi Day. Orchi means no in Greek. Tomorrow we commemorate the day in the Second World War that the Greeks said no to the Axis powers, a decision that helped delay the invasion of Greece and which may have helped in a small way the Allies ultimately win the Second World War. As many Australians fought in Greece, mainly in Crete, I thought it timely to remind people in our city who wish to join those of us of Greek heritage in remembering this day at the Shrine tomorrow at 1 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor Pattis. Councillor Friend-Pereira.
Thank you, Mayor. On Sunday the 19th of October, I had the privilege to return once again to Rowan Street Kindergarten. I've never been there as a student, but I was there as a parent. This marked 80 years of that kindergarten's operation, although not always at that site. In 1945, Rowan Street Kindergarten, or Ashburton Kindergarten as it may have been back then, operated out of a demountable shed at Ashburton Oldville. In 1952, Council gave it its current land on which it has been sitting since, and Council has been an active supporter of it, not just in physical infrastructure, but through various grants programs. I'm delighted that both my children will get to attend it, that my partner has also got to attend it, and I look forward to another 80 years of this wonderful community-run kindergarten, which is a flagship and an example of how our community kindergartens run in Ashburton, in Boroondara.
Thank you, Councillor Friend-Pereira. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Because one of our agenda items tonight talked about changes to the Planning Act and planning reforms and numerous reforms, I just wanted to ask a question for general business. If we can at some stage have a briefing on what is the proposed pet registration increase and how that will impact local government. So I just wanted to raise it and ask if we can have an update on that in due course.
Thank you. Noted. Yep. Thank you. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I had the pleasure, along with Councillor Hollingsworth, last week, I think Thursday, to be hosted at 3 places of worship across Boroondara, organised by Boroondara Council officers, and we were able to attend with a number of other people from the community, the Greek Orthodox Church in North Balwyn, and met the priest there and heard of the rich history of that church. We attended the Ark Bialik in Hawthorne East, I think it is. That was of the Jewish faith, and we attended the St Anthony's Capuchin Franciscans down on the corner of Power Road and I think Riversdale Road. I could have that wrong, or Burwood Road. Marvellous to have that opportunity. What is going on there in terms of their outreach into community, their pastoral care, and looking after those fantastic bits of architecture was very generously done and very good, and commend that to others next time.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. Busy night in general business. Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. In recognition that this is the last scheduled council meeting in this council term that Councillor Sophie Tawney will chair in her capacity as Mayor of Boroondara, on behalf of all my colleagues, I'd like to thank Councillor Tawney for her outstanding leadership and dedication over the past year. Over the past year, we have, through Sophie's leadership, made some transformative decisions relating to new and existing initiatives. And we've undertaken substantial and effective high-level advocacy with federal and state parliamentarians and government officials on behalf of our residents and ratepayers. It's been quite an amazing journey, and I think one that we all thank Councillor Tawney for her leadership with. We've also, as a group, established a council group where we encourage robust debate, critical thinking and diversity of opinion, while at the same time remaining respectful and considerate of each other and the diverse skills and knowledge that we all bring to the table. And I think that's quite an amazing achievement to have a well-functioning, grounded group that we have created. And Sophie has played a key role in that. So on behalf of all of us and the councillor group, I'd like to say thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Councillor Franco. I feel quite moved. Thank you very much. That's very kind. It's been an absolute honour and a privilege to be the Mayor with all of you, alongside all of you, and with the whole community. So thank you very much for your faith in me. Okay, let's move on to urgent business. Thank you. Item 10, urgent business. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? Councillor Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have an item of urgent business.
Can you please advise Council why it has arisen since the distribution of the agenda and why it cannot be safely or conveniently deferred until the next Council meeting under Rule 20 of the Governance Rules?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It relates to a property opportunity that has arisen since the agenda was distributed, where Council needs to make a decision before the next Council meeting. I also foreshadow that it will need to be dealt with as a confidential matter. Thank you.
Councillors, do I have a motion to admit this item of urgent business pursuant to Rule 20 of the Governance Rules? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Happy to move that.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sinfield.
Happy to second.
Is anyone opposed? I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Now, given this is an item of confidential business, do I have a motion to close the council meeting to the public as it appears on the screen? Councillor Friend-Pereira.
I'm happy to move the motion to close the meeting to the public.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Galt.
So seconded, Mayor. Thank
Is
you.
anyone opposed? I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare we will close the council meeting to the general public. To members of the community watching tonight's proceedings, the live stream will cease while the confidential business is being discussed, and we will reopen the meeting to the public at the conclusion of the discussion. To members of the community watching tonight's proceedings, welcome back to the live streaming of the council meeting. Councillors, are there any items of confidential business? No. This brings us to the end of the order of business for this meeting. Thank you all who have joined us in the gallery and online this evening, and I now declare the council meeting closed.